I thought she wouldn't hear my wish to marry her. But the alien princess accepted instantly. Jace Winters had long ago accepted that some desires were meant to remain locked inside one's heart, never to see the light of day. As he sat in his small office within the Intergalactic Embassy's East Wing, organizing translation files for the upcoming diplomatic summit, he allowed himself the dangerous luxury of a private daydream. Princess Veyara of Zeridia stood across the Grand Hall, her purple skin gleaming like polished amethyst under the embassy's soft lighting. She wore traditional Zeridian formal attire-flowing fabrics that seemed to move like liquid starlight around her graceful form. For 6 months, Jace had worked as her personal linguist, facilitating communications between her delegation and Earth's government. For 6 months, he'd fallen deeper into hopeless infatuation. If only I could marry someone like you, Jace whispered to himself, slouching in his chair with a defeated sigh. Hell, if I could marry you specifically, I'd be the happiest man in the galaxy. He didn't notice how Veyara's head turned sharply in his direction from across the expansive hall, her large, luminous eyes widening with surprise. He didn't see her excuse herself from Ambassador Chun's conversation and begin walking purposefully toward his office. Jace was too busy imagining an impossible future, walking hand in hand with Veyara through the crystal gardens of Zeridia, learning the secrets of her world, making her laugh with his terrible attempts at Zeridian poetry. The door to his office slid open with a soft hiss. Linguist Winters, Veyara's melodic voice carried a formal tone. But something else lurked beneath it. Was that amusement? I accept your proposal of marriage. Jace's coffee cup slipped from his fingers, shattering against the floor. He spun in his chair so fast he nearly toppled over, his face draining of color as he stared up at the princess now standing in his doorway. What? No, I didn't. Your Highness, I wasn't. The words tumbled out in a panicked jumble. Veyara stepped into his office, the door sliding shut behind her. A small smile played at the corners of her lips, revealing just a hint of the sharp canines common to her species. Did you not just propose marriage to me approximately 43 seconds ago? You heard that? Jace's voice came out as barely more than a squeak. From across the hall? Through the glass? My people's hearing is considerably more sensitive than humans, she explained, moving closer with that predatory grace he'd always admired. We evolved on a planet with much thinner atmosphere. Sound travels differently, so we adapted. I can hear a whisper from 50 meters away in optimal conditions. Jace felt the blood rush back to his face with a vengeance, heat creeping up his neck. Your Highness, I am so sorry. That was completely inappropriate. I was just thinking out loud. I didn't mean to propose marriage. Veyara tilted her head, studying him with those captivating eyes. Interesting. On Zeridia, we do not speak words we do not mean, even in private. But I understand humans are different. She paused and her expression softened. However, I should inform you that according to Zeridian law and custom, once a proposal is spoken and accepted, the bond is considered initiated. Initiated? Jace felt like the room was spinning. Yes, we are now formally engaged, Jace Winters. She extended her hand toward him, palm up, a Zeridian gesture of partnership. Unless you wish to retract your proposal, though I confess, I would be disappointed if you did. Jace stared at Veyara's outstretched hand, his mind racing through 1,000 thoughts at once. This couldn't be real. He was a mid-level linguist from Baltimore, not someone who married alien princesses. Yet there she stood, waiting for his response with an expression that seemed genuinely hopeful. You'd be disappointed? He managed to ask, his voice steadier than he felt. Veyara's purple cheeks darkened to a deeper violet, a blush. He realized with amazement. Did you think your affection was invisible, Jace? I've watched you watch me for months. The way you ensure my tea is always the perfect temperature. How you stay late to help me understand Earth idioms. The care you take with every translation, making certain my words carry the exact meaning I intend. She stepped closer. Did you think I felt nothing in return? Slowly, reverently, Jace placed his hand in hers. Her skin was warmer than he'd expected, smooth and sending tingles up his arm. I thought I was just ... convenient, your linguist. You were never just anything. Her fingers curled around his. But now we must follow protocol. On Zeridia, when an engagement is formed, courtship begins immediately and publicly. We have much to learn about each other before the formal bonding ceremony. The next 3 hours were a whirlwind. Vayara summoned her chief advisor, a stern Zeridian named Kale, who looked at Jace like he was a particularly troublesome insect. Forms were filed. The embassy erupted in shocked whispers. Ambassador Chun nearly fainted by evening. Jace found himself standing on the embassy's rooftop garden, waiting for what Vayara called the first courtship. Moon. She emerged from the elevator wearing something less formal, a simple wrap that revealed the elegant lines of her shoulders and the luminescent patterns that naturally marked her skin. Under the moonlight, those patterns seemed to glow faintly. You're staring, she said softly, moving to stand beside him at the railing. I'm trying to convince myself this is real, Jace admitted. This morning I was filing reports. Tonight I'm courting a princess. Does the title bother you? No, you bother me. At her surprised look, he quickly clarified. In the best way. You're brilliant and kind and funny when you think no one's paying attention. You make me want to be better than I am. That's terrifying. Vayara laughed, the sound like crystal chimes. Good, you terrify me too. Choosing you means disappointing my father, defying expectations, possibly creating a diplomatic incident. She turned to face him fully. But when I heard your wish, spoken so honestly when you thought no one could hear, I realized I'd been waiting for you to see me as more than just a princess. Just Vayara. Just Vayara is extraordinary, Jace said, emboldened by the moonlight and the surreal turn his life had taken. She reached up, hesitating just before touching his face. May I? This is how Zeridians express affection. At his nod, she placed her palm against his cheek. Warmth spread from her touch, and he felt an odd tingling sensation, not unpleasant, almost like a gentle vibration. It's called resonance, she explained. When two Zeridians are compatible, their bioenergy harmonizes. I wanted to know if it would work with a human. Her eyes widened with wonder. Jace, you're resonating with me. He covered her hand with his own. Is that good? It's more than good. It's rare even among my own people. She leaned closer, her breath warm against his skin. It means we're meant for this. The kiss that followed was tentative, exploratory, two different worlds learning each other's rhythms. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. Tomorrow the real challenges begin, Vayara whispered. My father arrives from Zeridia. The council will have opinions. Let them have opinions, Jace said with newfound confidence. I made a wish. You accepted. I'm not backing down now. She smiled against his lips. Good, because neither am I. The arrival of King Farron of Zeridia turned the embassy into a fortress of tension. Jace had researched Zeridian royalty extensively over the past 2 days, but nothing prepared him for the imposing figure who materialized in the transport bay 7 feet of regal purple presence, wearing armor that seemed carved from black diamond. So, King Farron's voice rumbled like distant thunder, this is the human who thinks himself worthy of my daughter. Jace stood his ground, though his knees threatened to buckle. With respect, Your Majesty, I don't think I'm worthy of her. But I love her, and I'll spend every day trying to become the partner she deserves." The king's eyes, the same luminous quality as Vayara, studied him with unsettling intensity. Love, a human concept built on chemical reactions and fleeting emotions. Father. Vayara stepped between them, her posture rigid with controlled anger. "You know that's not true. Ziridians bond for life. What we feel is no different than what humans feel. Perhaps you've forgotten how you spoke of Mother before she passed." Something flickered across the king's face, grief quickly masked. "Do not speak of her to make your point. Then don't insult what Jace and I share." Vayara's voice carried steel beneath the velvet. He heard me laugh at his terrible pronunciation and worked harder. He learned our customs without being asked. He stays late to ensure my comfort. These are not fleeting emotions, Father. This is devotion. The king turned away. The council convenes tomorrow. They will decide if this union can proceed. He swept from the room, his guards following like purple shadows. Jace released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Well, that could have gone worse. Could it? Vayara's hands trembled slightly as she reached for him. "Come with me, please. I need to be somewhere that feels safe." She led him through the embassy's winding corridors to the botanical garden, a massive greenhouse that housed plants from 100 worlds. In the center stood a cluster of Ziridian crystal flowers, their petals reflecting light in prismatic patterns. "I had these brought from home," Vayara explained, sinking onto a bench beside the flowers. "When everything feels overwhelming, I come here." Jace sat beside her, taking her hand. The resonance between them hummed to life immediately, calming them both. "Tell me about your mother." Vayara's eyes glistened. "She was the one who taught me that love transcends logic. She was a scholar who married a warrior king completely wrong by all traditional standards. But they chose each other anyway. She traced patterns on his palm. She would have liked you. She always said the bravest thing anyone could do was speak an honest wish." "I'm scared, Vayara," Jace admitted. "Not of your father or the council. I'm scared I'll fail you, that I won't be enough when things get difficult." She turned to face him, cupping his face in both hands. "Do you know what I heard in your wish, Jace? Not desperation or lust or ambition. I heard someone who saw me, truly saw me, and thought I was worth wishing for. Not the princess, not the diplomat me. You are worth 1,000 wishes," he said, pulling her closer. This kiss was different from their first. It carried urgency, need, the weight of everything they stood to lose. Vayara's fingers tangled in his hair as she pressed against him, and Jace wrapped his arms around her waist, feeling the warmth of her through the thin fabric she wore. The resonance intensified, spreading through both their bodies like wildfire. Vayara gasped against his mouth, her pupils dilating. "Jace, if we don't stop, the resonance will complete the bond. We'll be connected forever." He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "Is that what you want?" "More than anything. But the council can't unbond us if we're already bonded, can they?" A slow, dangerous smile spread across her face. "No, they can't. But it's irreversible. Are you certain?" For answer, Jace kissed her again, deeper this time, pouring every ounce of his certainty into the connection. Vayara responded with equal fervor, her hands exploring his shoulders, his back, learning the shape of him as he learned hers. The crystal flowers began to glow brighter, responding to their resonance. Light danced across their skin as the bond settled into place, a permanent bridge between human and Ziridian, between two hearts that refused to be separated. When they finally pulled apart, both were glowing faintly, the mark of a completed bond visible in the luminescent patterns that now traced across Jace's skin, mimicking Vayara's natural markings. "Tomorrow we face the council," Vayara whispered, resting her forehead against his. But tonight, we belong only to each other. Tonight and every night after, Jace promised, holding her close as the garden glowed around them. The council chamber was a stark contrast to the soft beauty of the botanical garden. Cold crystalline. Walls reflected the judgmental faces of 12 Zeridian elders, their expressions ranging from skeptical to openly hostile. King Farron sat at the head, his face an unreadable mask. Jace stood before them, Vayara at his side. The luminescent patterns on his skin proof of their completed bond seemed to glow defiantly under the harsh lights. "You have forced our hand." Council Elder Cyrax spoke first, her voice sharp as broken glass. "The bond is complete. This cannot be undone without killing you both." "That was not our intention," Vayara began, but her father raised a hand for silence. "Wasn't it?" King Farron leaned forward. "You knew exactly what you were doing, daughter. You've backed us into accepting this human or watching you die." His eyes fixed on Jace. "Clever, perhaps? But cleverness does not make him worthy." "Then let me prove my worth," Jace said, his voice steady despite his hammering heart. "Name your trial." "I'll face it." The council members exchanged glances. Elder Crix, a scarred warrior, spoke next. "The trial of hearts. An ancient Zeridian tradition. You must demonstrate 3 things: knowledge of our ways, strength of spirit, and depth of devotion. Fail any portion, and while we cannot break your bond, we can exile you both from Zeridia forever." Vayara's hand tightened in his. Exile would mean losing her home, her family, everything she'd known. "I accept," Jace said without hesitation. The first test came immediately. They led him to a chamber filled with Zeridian artifacts and scrolls. "You have 2 hours to prepare a speech in perfect High Zeridian about the 7 pillars of our civilization. No translators. No assistants." Jace had been studying the language for months, but High Zeridian was vastly different from the conversational dialect. As the door sealed behind him, panic threatened to overwhelm him. Then he remembered Vayara's voice in the garden. "You saw me." He could do this. For her, he could do anything. 2 hours later, he stood before the council and spoke. The words came haltingly at first, then with growing confidence. He spoke of honor, knowledge, harmony, strength, compassion, legacy, and unity, the 7 pillars. But more than that, he wove in how each pillar applied to his love for Vayara, how she embodied these principles, how she had taught him to see beyond his human limitations. When he finished, even Elder Cyrax looked grudgingly impressed. The second test pushed his physical and mental limits. They placed him in a sensory deprivation chamber designed to break one's spirit, to force confrontation with deepest fears. Hours passed, or was it minutes? Time lost meaning in the absolute darkness and silence. Jace's mind conjured nightmares. Vayara turning away from him in disgust, their bond shattering, dying alone in the dark. But beneath the fear, he felt it, the constant hum of their resonance, proof she was real, that their connection transcended physical space. He focused on that feeling, letting it anchor him. When they finally opened the chamber, he emerged exhausted but unbroken. "Impressive," Crix acknowledged. "Most humans would have succumbed to madness within an hour. You lasted 6. "The bond sustained him," Vayara said quietly, pride evident in her voice. "Then let us test that bond," King Farron said, standing. The final trial, the bearing of souls. They led Jace and Vayara to a ceremonial chamber. At its center stood a crystalline altar pulsing with energy. "You must stand before us and your mate," Cyrax explained, "and speak every truth of your heart. The crystal will know if you lie or hide. You must be completely vulnerable, holding nothing back." Jace approached the altar, placing his hands on its surface. Immediately, he felt his emotions amplify, his every thought laid bare. Vayara, he. began, his voice cracking with the intensity of what he felt, "I was nobody before you. A man going through motions, translating words without understanding their weight. You taught me what it means to truly communicate, to bridge not just languages but souls." The crystal pulsed brighter. "I'm terrified every day that I'm not enough for you, that my human lifespan will be too short, that my understanding will be too limited, that I'll disappoint you in 1,000 ways." Tears streamed down his face, but he didn't stop. "But I love you with everything I am. You are my first thought when I wake and my last before sleep. You are the wish I didn't dare speak until desperation made me brave." He turned to face the council, his voice growing stronger. "I know I'm just a human. I'll never fully understand what it means to be Zeridian, but I will spend every day of my life trying. I will honor her, cherish her, stand beside her against any challenge. Not because she's a princess, but because she's Vayara, the woman who heard my impossible wish and made it real." The chamber fell silent except for the humming crystal. Then Vayara stepped forward, tears leaving trails of light down her purple cheeks. "Father, Council, you asked for proof of his devotion. Did you not just witness it?" King Farron stood slowly, approaching Jace. For a long moment, he simply stared. Then, unexpectedly, he placed a hand on Jace's shoulder. "My wife once told me that true strength is found in vulnerability. I did not understand until now." His voice softened. "She would have adored you, human, as I suspect. I might learn to." "The Council recognizes this bond," Elder Cyrax announced formally. "Jace Winters of Earth, you have proven yourself worthy. May your union bring harmony between our worlds." The wedding ceremony was unlike anything Earth or Zeridia had witnessed before, a perfect fusion of two cultures, two worlds. Two hearts finally free to celebrate their love without barriers. The embassy's grand hall had been transformed into something magical. Zeridian crystal flowers climbed the walls, their prismatic light dancing across gossamer curtains that mimicked Earth's traditional wedding decor. Above, a projection displayed both Earth's moon and Zeridia's 3 moons. All full and glowing. Jace stood at the altar in formal attire, a blend of Earth's traditional suit and Zeridian ceremonial robes, the fabric shimmering with threads that matched Vayara's natural luminescence. His heart thundered as music began, a haunting combination of human strings and Zeridian crystal chimes. Then Vayara appeared, and breathing became optional. She wore a gown that seemed woven from starlight itself, flowing around her purple skin like liquid moonbeams. Her natural patterns glowed brilliantly, and woven into her hair were both earth flowers and Zeridian crystals. She was a vision of two worlds united in one magnificent woman. King Farron walked beside her, and when they reached Jace, the king placed Vayara's hand in his. "Cherish her," he said simply, his voice thick with emotion. "With everything I am," Jace promised. The ceremony itself was conducted in both languages. They spoke traditional Zeridian vows of resonance and unity, then exchanged earth rings, simple platinum bands engraved with Zeridian symbols. When the officiant finally pronounced them bonded mates and married partners, the gathered crowd, humans and Zeridians alike, erupted in celebration. But Jace only had eyes for Vayara. "Hello, husband," she whispered, her eyes sparkling with joy and something darker, more primal. "Hello, wife," he replied, pulling her close for a kiss that drew cheers and good-natured. Whistles from their guests. The reception blurred past in a whirl of toasts, dancing, and diplomatic congratulations. Ambassador Chun gave a tearful speech about love bridging galaxies. Elder Crix, surprisingly, shared a Zeridian battle blessing. But through it all, Jace and Vayara remained connected, hands clasped, resonance humming between them with increasing intensity. "I need you alone," Vayara finally whispered in his ear, her breath hot against his skin. Now. They slipped away from the celebration, making their way to the suite prepared for them, a space designed specifically for this night, with both human and Zeridian traditions in mind. The room glowed softly with bioluminescent panels, and at its center stood a massive bed covered in fabrics that seemed to shift colors with the light. The moment the door sealed behind them, Vayara pulled Jace into a fierce kiss. All the restraint they'd maintained during courtship, all the propriety demanded by their public roles, melted away. This was theirs, this moment, this night, this love. "I've waited so long to have you like this," Vayara breathed against his lips, her hands working at the fastenings of his ceremonial robes. No councils watching, no protocols to follow. Just us. Jace's hands trembled as he found the clasps of her gown, revealing inch after inch of purple skin that seemed to glow brighter under his touch. "You're so beautiful it hurts to look at you," he whispered, tracing the luminescent patterns that swirled across her shoulders and down her arms. "Then don't just look," she challenged, pulling him toward the bed. They fell together onto the soft surface, a tangle of limbs and desperate kisses. Jace explored every curve of her body, marveling at the warmth of her skin, the way she gasped when he kissed the sensitive junction of her neck and shoulder. Her hands were equally adventurous, learning the planes of his chest, the muscles of his back. Every place that made him groan with pleasure. The resonance between them intensified with every touch, creating feedback loops of sensation. When Jace kissed down her throat to her collarbone, Vayara felt an echo of his pleasure mixing with her own. When her nails scraped lightly down his sides, she experienced his shiver of desire as if it were hers. "This is what true bonding means," Vayara gasped as Jace's mouth explored lower. "Everything you feel, I feel. We're one, Jace, completely one." He looked up at her, pausing to drink in the sight of her flushed deep violet with arousal, patterns blazing like captured lightning, eyes dark with need. "I love you," he said simply. "Every part of you, human understanding or not." "Show me," she commanded, pulling him back up to claim his mouth again. Their lovemaking was both tender and fierce, a learning and a claiming, a giving and a taking. They moved together with increasing urgency, the resonance building to almost unbearable intensity. Every touch was amplified, every kiss sent shock waves through both their bodies. Vayara cried out his name in Zeridian, then in English, as waves of pleasure crashed over them. Jace held her close, burying his face in her neck as his own release shuddered through him. Shared instantly through their bond so that Vayara's pleasure doubled back on itself. They collapsed together, gasping, glowing so brightly that the room's artificial lighting was unnecessary. The patterns on Jace's skin pulsed in perfect synchronization with Vayara's natural, markings visible proof of their complete union. That was ... Jace couldn't find words in any language. "Perfect," Vayara finished, curling against his side. "You're perfect. This is perfect." They lay tangled together, hands lazily exploring, exchanging soft kisses and softer words. Outside, the celebration continued, but here in their sanctuary, time seemed suspended. They made love again, slower this time, savoring every sensation, every connection. And again later, with playful experimentation that made them both laugh and moan as dawn approached. They finally lay still, utterly spent and completely satisfied. Vayara traced patterns on Jace's chest while he ran his fingers through her hair. "I heard a wish," she murmured sleepily. "Just a whisper from across a room. And it changed everything." "Best accident I ever made," Jace replied, kissing her forehead. "Not an accident," Vayara corrected. "Fate, destiny, the universe knowing what we needed before we did." She tilted her head up to look at him, her eyes full of love and promise. "Welcome to forever, husband." "Forever with you," Jace agreed, pulling her closer as they drifted into contented sleep. That's a wish I'll never regret. Outside their window, Earth's moon set as Zaridia's suns began to rise on the holographic display, two worlds sharing the same sky. Just as two hearts now shared the same beat. And somewhere in the space between languages and cultures, between human and alien, a love story continued to write itself, one whispered wish at a time. The end.